One Nation's been the only consistent political party for the last 20 years.
They're not talking about you. All right, well, let me tell you, One Nation is talking about you.
Looks like the media's run away from One Nation. They're too scared to ask us any questions, mainly because we're straight talkers and we've got the answers.
This is like a call to arms. You guys need to start making the real decisions and who you're going to vote for.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Ex-Candidates. My name is Stephen Tripp, and as always, I'm joined by Adam Zara. How are you tonight, Adam?
I'm pretty good, Stephen. How you going, mate?
Very well, thank you. And tonight we have Rebecca Lloyd on from Fair Business Australia. How are you, Rebecca?
Gentlemen, lovely to be on your show. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, no, it's lovely to have you. We had to have you on because we watched this video on Rumble, Director's ID is pure evil, don't sign up. And you were so passionate and you just came across so well. We thought we'd have you on and talk about this issue because a lot of people might not be aware of it. People that don't have businesses will definitely not be aware of it. But can you explain what the Director ID is and why it's such a big issue?
Sure. Well, I was in the category of not being aware of it either, because although I am the sole director of Fair Business Australia, which became a company out of a sole trading position earlier this year, the email that came from my accountant, courtesy of ASIC and the ABRS, actually went to my spam account. And the way I found out about said director ID was from a quite frantic phone call from another director who said, "This is happening. I don't like it. I don't know what to do." I was like, okay, what are you even talking about? So I started digging around a little bit, and you didn't have to dig too deep to realise that it is an extraordinarily concerning set of circumstances. And I spoke with George Christensen the other night about it, and I said, I've likened it to Braveheart, when at the very beginning the nobles all go off to a secret location to do a treaty conversation with the King of England, and he subsequently has them all hanged, which means that there are no nobles left, there are no leaders left for the villages of Scotland, and I believe that the same thing is happening right now in Australia. So what is the Director ID? It is basically connecting everything together for the ATO so that you can be connected with every single company that you may have run, and so that they can interlink everything. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, maybe that just makes sense. Maybe that's because government doesn't really speak with each other with their various departments. I say you already have my details, you already have my tax file number, you already have my ABN, you already have my license number, you already have my medical records. Why must I go in and give you all of these details to be issued with, I think it's either a 15 or a 17-digit number that will stay with me for life? I find that very, very concerning, and I personally believe that it is a precursor to a national digital ID. Now, part of me thought to myself, are you being a little bit overly dramatic, Rebecca? Because I do tend to be quite passionate and feisty. But after speaking with George Christensen and speaking with a legal representative who has a very, very lengthy history in law, in being a human rights advocate, in conservative politics, I don't believe that I'm being over the top at all. I do believe that this is an extraordinarily concerning time. And I do believe as directors, we must stand together against this Director's ID. It is a precursor for a digital Chinese-style communism party ID. And if we don't, we will end up not doing the right thing for the next generation. And 2,300 other directors have already registered in my database who happen to have the same stance as me. So this is just the thin end of a potentially bloody big wedge. But we will fight the battle that has come to our doorsteps. We didn't go looking for it. It's come looking for us. And right now I'm scrambling to find next steps.
And how many digits? Sorry, Stephen. How many digits? How many digits did you say that the number is going to be?
I believe it's 15 or 17, but there is a lot of information flying around at the moment. Yeah. And unfortunately, the misinformation right now is actually in part to the ATO, that when you call them up, they don't even know what's really going on. And so they're giving out information, and it's coming secondhand to myself. I haven't had time to even call the ATO. I've only just gotten onto my own accountant about it to say that I would probably like to deregister the company. The challenge with deregistering the company is that rumour has it that they are backdating the requirements for a director's ID. So you might not even have the opportunity to either step down as a director and give it to somebody else, or to deregister your company and move back to a partnership or a sole trader. So we're yet to find that out, whether that is somewhere where we can move forward. The other option is that you could apply for an extension whilst you gather yourself and decide what it is that you're going to do. One source of information said that was going to be a 5-month extension. Another source of information, after calling the ATO and the ABRS, said that was only a 3 to 5 week extension. And so this is the challenge. And it's just smacks of what happened during COVID, that there was no black and white. Everything changed with the daily news. It was like the weather. It was, prophesied to be one thing. It was never that. It was always something different. And I think it's that misinformation and those grey areas that really leave people reeling and on the back foot, because there is nothing that's concrete that we can stand on right now, except for the $13,000 to $1 million fine if you do not comply, / it is a criminal offence not to comply. I'm sorry, I keep the law. I don't speed. I wear my seatbelt. I don't drink and drive. I don't go axe murdering people. And now you come at me for having a company and tell me that I must comply, or this is criminal. Shame on you, and it's criminal on the government to again be taking what I believe to another firm step towards the Great Reset of 2030.
Well, it's just a complete dog's breakfast at the moment, because I myself, I'm a director as well. I'm not of a company, just of a trust. And I received this from my accountant, and it almost went to my spam as well, because it doesn't come from the actual accountant's email. It comes from some sort of separate email. I don't know how they've set it up. But if they're going to have this come in with a $13,200 fine if you do not comply, shouldn't you be getting a letter from ATSIC saying this is what we've brought in, this is what you have to do? All I got was a link that took me to an app. It didn't even work when I tried to install it on my phone. I installed it and then I opened it up and it just got this error message. It doesn't even work. Now, since then, just before we did this interview, I've installed it again. It seems to be working now, but this is typical from government. Like we saw it with the COVID app, with the national COVID app. It didn't work and no one wanted to use it. Same with this. It's like they want to have everything under a digital identity, but these government departments can't even run themselves half the time, let alone keeping everyone's data together. So how is it that they can issue this without actually sending us a letter directly from ATSIC stating what this is? They just kind of hide it in through accountants.
Well, it beggars belief, doesn't it? Can you imagine if, as a director of a company or an employer, you were to behave like that with your staff? Send them an email from a random address back in September that goes to their spam, and then at the end of November, they discover, oh, by the way, you have to do this, or I'm going to fire you. And if you don't do this, I'm going to fire you, and I'm also going to fine you, by the way. And what happens? I don't have $13,000. Fair Business Australia raised a lot of money, and that money went straight back into fighting legal fights. It went straight back into the community. We lived off an oily rag. We were a bunch of volunteers. We've only just started getting monetized now by running an actual proper business structure where we actually work for profit. I don't have $13,000 spare. And I can't even remember who it was now, I've spoken to so many different people. I think it was George Christensen. How many times are they going to issue those fines? It might not be a one-off $13,000 fine that a larger corporation company structure could absolutely just swallow and say, oh, okay, I've paid my 13 grand, whatever, write it off on tax and we'll be fine next year. But what if they do it again, and then every time they send you a letter saying you must comply and you do not comply, they could send you a letter every single day for a $13,000 fine every single day. I simply don't have those kind of finances. And without wanting to be melodramatic, because I am a fairly well-known person now, at least within the community that I'm in, and I'm certainly on the radar. I've been a Senate candidate, and I've been fairly active on Facebook. It's highly likely that they know exactly what my intentions are with regards to the director ID. I don't have the finances for that. What are they going to do? Are they going to try and repossess certain materials, or am I going to go to prison like Monica Smith? And I honestly don't know. But I do know that my position in life is for legacy. And regardless of what happens, I will stand for my country. I will stand for my family. I'll stand for the next generation. And on principles, as a principled woman, I simply cannot comply with what I believe to be the precursor to a digital ID that will see my niece and nephew and tens of thousands of other children absolutely enslaved to a communist-style social credit system. So whatever may come, I must not comply. And I believe that many other directors do feel the same way. And this is really where we will sort the trash from the treasure. Excuse me if you don't agree with me and you believe I'm calling you trash, I apologise, but I just, separated the trash from the treasure with that comment. But we will find out who are going to be the leaders in this time and who are not, because it's actually going to cost you now. You can't just make a comment on social media and pretend to be a virtue signalling leader when you face fines and imprisonment. So this is going to be quite a powerful time.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're right. And I don't like the idea of having numbers assigned to your individuality anyway. I mean, I know, and it's, you know what, really, never really cared about it before, because we've got our, Centrelink number. We've got our Medicare card number, license number, and things like that. So when I understand the need for a number, I get it. Okay. But after COVID and after, after the awakening, we got awakened, you know what I mean? We've done, all of us here have done things that we would never have had to do until COVID came. So we're all in the same boat there. And what happens is another number, it's just it reminds me so much. And I got in so much trouble so many times by making the comparison to World War II and the Jewish star. And I compared the mask to the yellow star. And then I did a bit of research and realized that there was other colors for different things. So they had the Jewish had the yellow star, and then there was a red armband and a black armband, and there's all these different things, and they all meant different things. So it was very divisive, and that. So what happens is the clans, I believe that was a tool inside the concentration camps where people would separate because they would just stick with their clan. So it was divisive anyway. And you see these trends happening again today, in all forms of politics and in transgender politics and, the voice politics, all that kind of stuff. But another number, I mean, why not just crack out the tattoo gun and just tattoo a number up your arm, and that's your number and that's it? Because to me, it just seems like that's what it is. And, and fair enough, we're not tattooing a number on somebody's arm, but with this digital code that we're getting now, it's even worse, because that code, at least with the tattoo on your arm, when you pass away at the end of your natural life, that number goes away. But when you have your barcode in that computer system, that stays there forever. I don't know if anyone's tried to delete a photo of their phone or computer. It always comes back, always. So, that's why I get worried about it. I don't like being tracked. I like my way to be, I like to be able to flick my watch off, turn my phone off. And if I walk out the door, they don't know where I am. And I just feel like with this ID and these digital IDs, it's just they're going to know everything all the time about you for everything.
Well, absolutely. And also you need to think it doesn't go beyond the realms of possibility of social credit systems for intergenerational debt. Imagine if you have an outspoken father like Martin Luther King that stands for justice, and then 3 generations later, they're still penalising you for the videos that are floating around about your Martin Luther King-esque father that stood for social justice, or grandfather or great-grandfather. And reducing the human race to a number is a wicked, wicked, wicked thing. It is a wicked, wicked thing. You would never just number your children. You would never come here 2, naughty boy 1. You would never do that. And you might laugh about it, but that is exactly what the government is doing for us. It is one set of rules for them and one set of rules for us. And if they really, really want to have a number system, then number yourself. Number yourself, government. Stop calling yourself the Right Honourable, His Gracious, Merciful, of, all these massively wonderful names that they always refer to themselves. Yeah. Was at an Anzac Day meeting, the dawn service last year, thoroughly embarrassed at how they referred to the local member of parliament when there are decorated war heroes standing all around in the pouring rain whilst he's standing under a great big umbrella getting called all these wonderful, wonderful names. It is a sick system. It is a very broken system. And the directors of companies have a lot to lose financially and have a lot to lose legacy-wise. And I do believe that there will be a lot of people that will stand no matter what happens, because the fight has come again to our doorstep. We're not going out rah, rah, rah down to Canberra. They're coming to our doorstep, to our businesses, again. And it will continue to happen. It will continue to happen.
Yeah, well, I'm watching with bated breath because I know with the director's ID, and I have my own small business as well, and I'm a sole trader. And so it scares me because if I ever did try to take my business to the next level, and sometimes when you can't work in my industry, you can't work in certain places unless you are PTY Ltd. So if I had to go PTY, become a business, then I would have to go and get a digital ID. So it could actually stump business from trying to grow further.
Well, I agree with you, but I also strongly disagree with you there. I think that given enough time, you won't need to worry about doing a PTY Ltd because I believe that they'll come for the sole traders next. So it doesn't matter whether you try to grow or not, you will be squashed into a number system. So, don't feel jealous of us. Just wait your time and your turn will come.
Just wait my time, but I'm going to tell you something. I'll do that William Wallace thing. I'll paint my face blue and I'll go for it because I don't really care anymore. Honestly, I've had enough with all this, And let's face it, like I haven't really got any better words at this point in time, but it's just so much BS. Why do you need that number now at this point in time? We've been around for Australia's 230 or 40 years old, whatever it is now. Businesses have been going. Everything's set up. They track us anyway. You're right. We've got our tax file number. That tax file number, and it's funny because even with MyGov, I don't know if you have MyGov in Queensland or you have your own kind of thing, but it's all centralized.
No,
it's all centralized information anyway. And funnily enough, I just got the email from Medibank, and they're like, "Oh, we're really sorry, but guess what? All your information, the hackers have got all your information now. So they've got my address, they've got my name, they've got my birth date, they've got all my numbers but gratefully they don't have your credit card number." Well, that doesn't matter because they can, with the information they've got, they can pretty much open up lines of credit using my name now. And now I'm kind of like, well, what am I going to do with it? What do I do now? How do I stop that from happening?
Do you actually believe that it is the Russians? There's this hacking narrative that continues to go on. I find it highly amusing that health gets hacked, that telecommunications gets hacked. All these different things that we thought was so safe are now getting hacked. So do you know what the answer is? The government, we need to just put everything in a centralized location and the government will take care of us. It's demoralizing. We are not stupid. We are not stupid. Some of us might not be as awake as other people. I certainly wasn't awake. Something just didn't feel quite right when COVID first started. I just thought it was a bit of a hullabaloo. Oh, get over it. It'll be finished in 2 to 6 weeks. What's everyone panicking about? And then the more I looked at it, the more I was like, wait, what is going on? Now, there are certain people out there that are very, very angry. I've been trying to tell everyone for 25 years. Thank you. Appreciate that. But right now, we need to come together with actually practical solutions because, unfortunately, and I will lose some of the audience again now, rallies are not the answer unless you're wanting to network with people. If you wish to network, absolutely go and rally. But if you think that the government is going to start paying attention to rallies, then I'm sorry, but I believe that you are very, very sadly mistaken. If rallies were going to make a difference, they would have made a difference at Canberra. And we saw what happened in Canberra as a response to a vast number of people gathering while they used weapons on people. They also used weapons down in Melbourne. And so the government is not remotely interested in your feelings. The government is not remotely interested in your moral compass. They are only interested in centralisation, control and greed and running a corporation-style government. And no, I'm not talking about common law. I am talking about greed and self-centeredness. And until we're able to come up with practical solutions, which I believe the directors are going to be a very, very good starting point for that. The 17th of December mandates for Queensland, we had a whole bunch of small businesses that did want to band together, but they were mum and pop businesses. They were hairdressers, they were lawn mowers, they were, lawn care. They were all these different people that didn't necessarily have the backing or the linear framework to be able to do that. Directors do. Directors do have employees. Directors have been in positions of business long enough to have to think strategically. And so I personally believe that the government has brought the fight to the wrong people. We will find out whether the police and the army are used to enforce all the future things that the government wants to do, and the police and the army are then going to have to make their own mind up as to whether they choose to comply with orders that come down. But we outnumber them 1,000,000 to 1, 100,000 to 1, 1,000 to 1, even at a local council level, even compared to your local, everything. You outnumber them. You are the ones that dig things out of the ground. You are the ones that teach the children. You are the essential workers. You are the farmers. You are the ones that plug up the potholes in the road. You are the ones that actually run the country. They're just the ones that sit back, garnish your wages to pay their own salaries, and make terrible decisions that have left us in a state of inflation, have left us in a state of so many suicides over the last 2 years, so many domestic violences, so many people that have adverse reactions, so many children that are now scoring terribly on the NAPLAN tests, so many essential workers that are still unemployed and are still on getting in trouble. They're on disciplinary action for refusing to get the jab, even though it's been proven that the jab is ineffective.
Yep.
And so you must get personal governance, you must get personal autonomy. And if you don't feel strong enough to do it in and of yourself, then join up with Fair Business Australia to get connected with like-minded people. And together we will push back, and together we will win, and together we will rebuild our local communities and our national economy.
See, so many of these things are reactionary. Like if you look at when they brought in gun laws, it was a reaction to Port Arthur. I'm not saying that this is a similar thing, but what is this a reaction to? It's a reaction to nothing. They've just brought it in from nowhere. There's no real rationale behind why they're bringing this in. If you look at the website here, it says a director ID is a unique identifier that a director will apply for once and keep forever, which will help prevent the use of false and fraudulent director identities. Well, how often does that happen? How often is there fraudulent identities being created? Like, you still have to create an ABN number to form a business. That's still, you still have to go through forms of identification to do that. So what is this actually stopping? And why are they bringing in this huge fine if you don't comply? Well, obviously they just want you to comply and shut up. What is the next steps for people? Are there next steps for people that don't want to go ahead with this? I know that you're in touch with some lawyers, I think, that are looking at this. Can you expand upon that and let people know, like, if you want to push back against this, what are the options?
Yeah. There is not a lot of wiggle room, folks. The legislation is very, very tightly bound up. It's a massive legislation. It's been pretty well thought out. There's not a lot of wiggle room for directors. There is an option to comply without connecting yourself to MyGov. On principle, I can't do that because it's still complying, and I just won't do that. You could comply and connect yourself with MyGov. You could consider shutting down your company and moving back to being a sole trader or a partnership or a trust. But if they're going to backdate it, then that might only buy you some time. You could also apply for an extension, but again, that's only going to buy you some time. And so unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you choose to frame this, you are going to see your time either in or out of the ring, either on or off the battlefield. There is no two ways about it. You either must stand or you must bow. And unfortunately, that is the only way. Now, there are a few other things that I'm looking into. I'm speaking to other people. Again, I'm not a lawyer and I have limited resources myself, and I only found out about this a week ago. So I'm speaking with other people about some other entities that could potentially be set up, but until I know more about them, I'm not willing to hail them as the next saviour for directors because they simply might not be feasible. But as a director myself, we have 10 or so days to work out what we're going to do before D-Day. But the dollar is what controls people. If there were no fines, people probably wouldn't even bother, whether they thought this was a terrible conspiracy or a governmental control or whatever. Directors are busy. And if there wasn't a fine, directors probably wouldn't do it at all. But what can you do? You can get connected with like-minded other directors so that as we disseminate information, you can get it as close to real time as possible. That has been the big challenge with what happened over the last 2.5 years with COVID, was simply getting the right information that could actually be trusted and wasn't just social media hype, out to the people that needed it the most. And so right now we have 2,300 directors, and that's just from a few videos that I've done that have gone semi-viral. I mean, the biggest video I think didn't even get to 180,000 views yet. And out of that, and then most videos since then have been between 7,000 and 10,000 views. So to get 2,300 directors out of 10,000 views, I think that is really got the finger on the pulse of the community that says that people en masse are not in favour of this. So come and join some like-minded people. Come and join our business alliance. We don't yet know exactly what we're going to do because this has been sprung on us. But whatever we do, we will stand together, and we will ensure this time around that we don't get picked off like what happened with small businesses last time, because there was only a few businesses that actually stood and vocally stood against the mandates and the lockdowns, and they were picked off, and very, very bloody results from that. And they did lose their businesses. Even though their case hasn't even gone to court yet, they've still lost. So we need to ensure that doesn't happen again, and numbers are definitely the answer for that.
And how do people contact you if they want to be part of that?
Yeah, so I'll give a link and you guys can put it in the description. And if you just fill in that form, we'll send an email out to you. And you need to check your spam for an email from Goldline, and make sure that your email is entered with the correct spelling, please. I've had so many people, I'm not getting your emails, and it's because they've done a misspell. So please do fill in the form. We'll reach out to you. You can come and have a Zoom. You'll get the replay of the first Zoom, which I think will encourage you to see that you're not alone. There are other people standing alongside you that are like-minded. You're not a conspiracy theorist. You're not a melodramatic person. You are someone that is sensing what's happening, and the winds of change are upon us. We are at war. It is an informational war, and the only way to win an informational war is to roll out the correct information at the right time, and we must have more conversations together to be able to do that.
And just like with COVID, and with the mandates and how people were going to lose their jobs over the mandates and things like that, there was a lot of false information going around, and a lot of it was spread around by, I believe, I think they were good doers. I think they were people who were, had a little bit of knowledge, but probably not enough knowledge to make the correct decisions. And I remember there was letters going around regarding my common law states that I can work and I don't have to do this and I can do that. There's things like that going around as well for this Director's ID?
Yes, there is a letter that is circulating around Facebook at the moment that is getting a lot of eyes on it. There's also a video on Rumble that is circulating around that's getting quite a few views to it. And the essence of that is, A, this legislation does not apply to me. Tell me where I'm a director and I have to comply with this. And also, this is an offer to contract. The Australian government is a corporation, and as a sovereign being, and I don't want to comply with this. And it is well-meaning. And moralistically, absolutely, you should not have to comply. Absolutely, you are a sovereign being. Yes, we are not in a war with flesh and blood. We are at war with good and evil. I 100% agree with you. But to use an analogy, and that letter is not going to work. Okay, I've already spoken with George Christensen about it. I've already spoken with the human rights advocate about it. And it doesn't work. Section 1272D of the legislation makes it very, very clear that as a director, you are an officer, you must comply. And to use an analogy to help you understand it, you might be the best kid at school with the best heart and you really want justice, but unless the bully has a crisis of conscience all of a sudden, telling the bully that he's very naughty and he shouldn't behave like that is not going to stop you getting a bop on the nose. Okay, so unfortunately, we can't just stand on our morals right now. We have to pivot, and pivot very, very cleverly in a system that we might not fully agree with, because right now we are not the majority. Common law people are not the majority. Other schools of thought are not the majority. And unless you are the majority, you are not going to have realistically enough authority to roll out what moralistically might be correct. So please do not use that letter. It's going to flag you with the authorities and you're going to spotlight yourself. Please do not use that letter. Please do not share that letter. I thank you and I honour the person that took the time to put that together. But unfortunately, it is not going to work with a government that simply wants to see us and our children and our children's children numbered.
To play devil's advocate, like they've already got, as Adam said, they've already got all our numbers. They have our ABN numbers. We've had to submit identification for that. Why is this such a big issue? Like, if we just went along with this, like, is it really going to be that big of a deal? Or, as you said, is this just a stepping stone for a digital ID and the communist social credit score and things like that?
Well, I personally believe that needs to be something that the individual watcher makes up their own mind and their own heart about that, Stephen. But myself, if you do believe in the Great Reset, that's still 7 years away. That's a lot of little baby steps.
Yeah.
It's a slow burn. And all the way along, they're able to gaslight all the way along, say, QR codes, it wasn't a big deal, but it was a very, very good exercise to train and groom people into just check in, just check in, just check in, just check in, wearing a mask, dehumanize, and people that don't choose to dehumanize, then we attack them and we gaslight them for spreading COVID and killing off grannies. Everything is about gaslighting, and I am not a lawyer, and I do the best I can to research whatever information I give out, but I am a woman of principle, and on principle, I cannot comply. I cannot comply with QR codes. I cannot comply with mask wearing. I cannot comply with getting the jab. I lost my job straight away because I haven't gotten the jab and everything got shut down. And come what may, I will not go to 2030 just making the path for myself easy for the next 7 years, for the next 50 years to potentially be the next generation saying, why did you not protect us? Where were you for that? You saw what was coming and you did nothing. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened back in World War II. And Adam is not being melodramatic to bring it back to World War II, because the same forces that were at work back then are at work now. It was a psyops back then. It's a psyops now. It was greed and control back then. It was eugenics back then. And it's exactly the same thing now. Please don't think that all these people that fly around on private jets actually have any type of love for you. They don't. You're just a number to them. You're just a number.
Well, I'm going to butcher her name, but Yamini Park, I think it is. She was on Joe Rogan. She was from North Korea and she escaped into China, and she was on Joe Rogan talking about her experience. And if you can find her based on my butchering of her name, I definitely encourage people to watch it, because it's a fantastic story. It's not a fantastic story. It's a very harrowing story. But Joe Rogan asked her, why don't people in North Korea rebel? Like, why don't they push back and say, we're not going to have this anymore. You're only one dictator and we're millions of people. We're going to push back. And she said, well, we don't know. We don't know that we're living in hell. Like, we think we're told we're living in paradise. And she said that when she finally escaped and she went to China, she was sold into as a sex slave. She finally got to South Korea, and then she made it to America. And when she got to America, she was people would say, how do you feel? And she's like, I'm not upset at the people in North Korea, but I'm upset with my grandparents, because they knew what it was like before the dictatorship. They knew what it was like beforehand. Why didn't they do anything? Why didn't they push back against all of this? Why didn't they stop this back then? So you're right. Sometimes you do have to draw that line in the sand. You said, no, enough is enough. Like, we really need to make a stand. And as you said, it's an incremental step, 20, 30, 7 years away. It's not going to be one big bang. You wake up one morning and everything's different. No, it's going to be the frog in the pot of water slowly getting boiled, Yeah, that's right. So I think you've made some very good points about the director ID and why we should oppose it. Can you just shift a little bit to actually Fair Business Australia and what you actually do with that as well, more broadly?
Fair Business Australia came about when I was actually lying on my sickbed from a very serious accident. Haven't shared that publicly. It may come back to bite me, but whatever. I had a very, very, very serious accident, and I was in constant pain. Lots of sleepless nights, and so I had a lot of time to think. And I started watching what was going on, and I thought, what is in my hand? What do I have? I thought, well, I'm a business strategist. I know how to do stuff like that, and I also am very comfortable showing up on camera because I used to be a pro singer and have been on camera plenty of times in the past. And so I just started doing a few videos, and it snowballed from there. I was invited to speak all the way up the east coast of Australia, shared the stage 3 times with Pauline Hanson, was subsequently asked to run for the seat of Brisbane for One Nation. And as Providence would have it, I believe, because I don't believe that my time with Pauline is actually done. I believe that there is still more waiting in the wings for us when we move down the track. But the Greens and the media took great offence at what I was saying and what I was doing, and they basically did a hit piece and I got taken out of the race. So Fair Business Australia has been extraordinarily outspoken for small business and extraordinarily outspoken for the political arena. We also have been able to put our money where our mouth is. We produced a police pack, which was information that we'd gathered from lots and lots of different sources, and disseminated that information out to small business owners. The information that we got back from the small business owners was that it was actually very, very effective in giving to the police, and the police did not return the few bits of feedback that I got. So that was great, but we were able to raise over $50,000 to go into legal battles so that we could stand up for small business owners who chose to not comply. So Fair Business Australia is outspoken. Fair Business Australia has already had skin in the game and had the bloody nose and the scraped knees and elbows to prove it. But we are helping small businesses to pivot out of COVID, to pivot online, so that future lockdowns, because they will continue to come, future lockdowns will not impede your ability to trade. If your shop is locked down, you could still trade online and trade out of your garage if need be. It's all about helping you to pivot. So we help business owners through marketing, online support, strategy, and we also have a marketplace that is in the final stages of launching, which will be the Australian alternative to Amazon. Why? Because online shopping increased exponentially. Amazon recorded their biggest profit ever during lockdowns, $2.3 billion, I believe it was, in the fourth quarter. And so we need to keep those retail dollars onshore instead of going offshore. Now, if you are a business owner, the only way for you to actually push back against the government, short of picking up a gun, which we don't have in Australia now, and that's not really the right way to do things anyway, is to suddenly go civil war, because we don't want thousands of people to die. But the way that you need to push back is to be powerful in your local community. How do you become powerful in your local community? By having the kind of business that is a standout business that people want to copy. By having the kind of business that employs local people so that your sphere of influence can continue to grow at a local level. And with enough Fair Business Australian businesses, we can all be hiring people at a local level, keeping local dollars in local pockets, lobbying local councils, and ensuring that people who actually are going to represent us are put into positions of council and local and federal government, so that we can be represented. So it's a very, very long-reaching plan, but the business mountain is the only mountain that actually makes money. Every other mountain does things, family, health, schooling, they all have their place, but the business mountain is the only mountain that actually makes money. And whoever controls the dollar in the country controls the country. Whoever controls the dollar will steer the country however they want it to go. We saw that with lockdowns. We saw that with employees getting the jab even though they didn't want it, because they have mortgages to pay. They want to put food on their tables. And so the government used the dollar to control the Australian population. They used the dollar to control the media channels, the messaging that was going out. So if we can take control of the dollar back to small businesses and local dollars in local pockets, we can control messaging at a local level, at a state level, at a federal level, and make the government messaging obsolete. Not the government obsolete, because you're never going to get a country that is non-governmental. That is generations away. But you can make their messaging obsolete because we're able to disseminate information at a round the table, dining table level, so people actually know what's going on and don't take their information from 7, 9, 10 News. So that's what Fair Business Australia is all about. Local dollars in local pockets, helping you become a community leader so that you can increase your sphere of influence, so that you can lobby and ensure that people who are going to actually represent you and your local community are in positions of government, and so we can control the message that goes out to the masses. Because there are a lot of people who are still asleep right now. You can't just jolt them awake with conspiracy theory, weird stuff, and chemtrails and all this weird stuff. That is too much for people. They can't handle that. You just have to gently. So it's a big thing. We need a lot of money. We need a lot of people involved to be able to pull it off. But if I didn't believe it was possible, I wouldn't open my big mouth in the first place. So yes, that's where Fair Business Australia is going. And then we'll become Fair Business America, Fair Business Europe. And in the end, we win.
Well, there you go. That's it's such a brave thing that you're doing, and it's and to step out of any sort of comfort zone that you might have had, and we're glad that you seem to be fully recovered from your big accident as well. I know that, we didn't know about any of that either, so I'm glad that you're well. But it's really important, and you did raise a little thing about the rallies and the protests. Okay, and I just want to address that just a little bit myself, because I believe rallies are important to create awareness. You need to be able to see that there's other people who think like you. And when people make noise and walk down the street, 1 turns into 10 and 10 turns into 100 and goes to 1,000, and that's how it happens. Now, we see that the COVID thing's starting to ramp up a little bit again. Queensland's in orange or amber or whatever they call it, because they treat us like kids. Because my kids in primary school had the green, amber and red light system. So you hit a red light, you're in trouble. The green means you're good, and orange means you're on the warning there. So that they're treating us like children again. We see the COVID reporting starts to ramp up, the fear campaign starts to ramp up, the oppressive mask starts to ramp up. So to get out and to do what you're doing, it's really good. But with the rallying thing, it's important for us to do that. But I also saw when I did the Convoy to Canberra rally, and I too at that point made the decision. Well, I had made a decision just before that, but it was that we can rally in the street as much as we want, but until lawmakers who are of the same belief as the ralliers get into power or get into a position to make law, then nothing's going to change. Yes. Because I was at the rally. I was at the Freedom Rally. Stephen and I were both at the Freedom Rally in Town Hall in Sydney yesterday, and it was good to see the people there, and it was great to talk to the people there. And you're right, we networked. I met a great an Indigenous leader, Uncle Bruce. And I'm looking forward to actually having a conversation with him, because obviously we've got the voice and all that kind of stuff too. So I want to actually, despite what people and trollers will say, I want to do my research, and I want to speak we want to speak to people on the ground and actually learn from them and not be filtered in from what's coming in from mainstream media. But I encourage people to rally and keep their voice loud. But I also encourage them to say that that's not going to do I also tell them it's not going to do anything other than raise awareness, and it's not going to make any difference in the political realm, because otherwise you would have your Liberal leader and your Labor leader there. If they cared, they would be there.
Yes.
One Nation, funnily enough, has been there to a few of them, and I was there, and Stephen was there, and because we are on ground level at this point. We're not in the ivory tower. We're not making decisions. But we are getting slowly working our way to get a bit of influence, just like how you are. You're yourself working hard to, that in this game, it ain't going to happen just from first time out. You need to build alliances, and you need to get the name out there. So I don't want to take it away from the people organising the rallies, and I want to make it clear that I support the rally at a certain level because it does raise awareness and builds the crowd. But we do need to make it a different level where we get the lawmakers up in there and happening. So that's, that we need to take it from the next step, like what you're saying. So it needs to go from the street rally to rallying the people to actually vote the way that they want their electors to come in.
I agree with you, Adam. I strongly do agree with you that it is a fantastic way for like-minded people and to spread awareness. I would also challenge the people who put these rallies on, particularly in Queensland, that you must partner up with other people who have solutions for the other 29 days of the month. A rally once a month or once every second month is not going to make enough of a community difference. We must have practical steps for other things to happen and then make the rally a culmination of that and a celebration of what's been done month to month. So that won't make me any friends, or it will make me lots of friends, whatever. I'd still believe it to be very strongly true. And at the risk of being very unpopular, there is a lot of ego in the freedom community that has become extraordinarily toxic. And until that ego is removed from the freedom community and people choose to work together, we will not come up with practical application steps for new members who are coming into the freedom community. Old members will get jaded and they will leave. New members will come in, and you must have a linear set of steps that they can do at a monthly level so that they can make decisions and be autonomous and self-govern. And there are so many people out there that are doing wonderful, wonderful things, but like governmental organisations, organisations within the freedom community are not talking to each other. So we must start to talk to each other as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
It is. Sorry, Stephen, you go for it.
No, well, it's just like the left have their long march through, they've been doing the long march through the institutions. We can't suddenly pop up and say, hey, we're here now and we expect to win. No, it's a long game. You have to stick at the long game, and we're learning as we go along. Speaking of the long game, like, you're definitely within this fight now. Where do you see your trajectory going? I know you ran for politics at the federal election. There was, so you've already touched on the issues that you had there. But where do you see yourself heading? In the years to come.
Fair Business Australia will continue to gain traction. It will continue to gain a lot of backlash and pushback, and that's fine, because I think I have been very well groomed for this kind of lifestyle. It started in primary school when I was bullied and hated just because I was a pastor's kid. So there you go. Nothing new. I will go again at politics, but I think the last election was a very good data gathering exercise. The election fraud is still underway with over 6,000 applications, affidavits or stat decks into the AEC saying that this happened and that happened. That's a lot of paperwork to sort through. The case was put to the Australian Federal Police on the 20th, not the 21st, the 20th. So we knew that there were shenanigans going on before the election, the AEC giving out grossly misleading information. And so electoral fraud is a big thing. It's something that must be cleaned up. Will it be cleaned up in time for the next election? I strongly doubt it. And so we must overwhelm people with numbers. And I think what Adam and Stephen are doing is wonderful, that they understand that this is a slow burn. People who just put their hand up and try to run an election 6 weeks out, case in point myself, you're never going to win. It's not going to happen. It's a great data gathering exercise. It's great to do your 8 seconds rodeo, ride that bull, and then most people never ride it again. You have to go in a few times. So will I go for politics again? Absolutely. But I won't do it unless I actually have friends in high places and have the finances and the messaging and the ability to get a message out to the masses. But everything that I've spoken about with Fair Business Australia, that is highly possible / probable that we will do that and join the conversation, which is what I was initially disendorsed for. That's why the Greens and the media took me to task over that and did a hit piece on me claiming electoral fraud and claiming financial fraud, which I simply can't have against my name because I am a businesswoman. I can't have that anytime somebody Googles Rebecca Lloyd, up comes that she's under investigation for fraud. That's just not going to work.
Yeah.
But join the conversation. Also, I bought it back after I sold it to a friend. Happily, I've bought it back. So it is mine again. And we are going to be moving forward with Join the Conversation. That also has a lot of legs. And I'm looking forward to rolling that out so that we can give smaller parties a fair go. There is far too much money in the two major parties. It is a two-party preferred system. It is a broken system. You don't actually vote for people. You vote for the people that have already been pre-chosen to win. And Heston Russell actually did a Zoom on this just recently where a whistleblower came out and said, he was asked to endorse this person and that person over a very, very expensive dinner and a glass of wine. So, yes, the electoral system is broken, but it doesn't mean that we just have to go and live off grid in a tent for the rest of our lives. It just means that we have to get a little bit more involved, a little bit cleverer, and more willing to have those hard conversations around the dinner table. We can't just be discussing what happened on the block. We can't just be discussing the latest meme that we saw that was just so incredibly funny. We have to actually be discussing politics. We have to be discussing the woke Marxism agenda that has crept its way into our schools and our universities. We have to be discussing the transgender agenda, the abortive agenda, the euthanasia agenda, all these different socialist agendas that have crept in because people our age, and it's our fault, us that are 35 plus, 40 plus, it's our fault because we were so consumed with our own lives and just living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck to paycheck, being controlled by the dollar. Young people, please understand that it was never a walk in the park, despite what you might think. It was always hard. Life was always hard. We always worked hard for the dollar. We were controlled by the dollar, and we just lived in our little cubicles, living paycheck to paycheck. And that is why the country is in the state that it's in, because we didn't step up sooner and say, hang on, what's going on? Because it was easier to, after a hard day of work and not having enough money at the end of the month, to discuss the block and to discuss memes and to discuss easy things, because no one wants to be rejected. No one wants to have those strong conversations. But now we have to, because there is no alternative, because we have gone too far down the track that we have to work really hard to reverse all of that. And so all you people that thought that you missed the battle, the last COVID lockdowns that happened, you might have just woken up now. You might not have stood as a business owner. I really wish I had have. Well, you get your time again, because
That's going to happen again.
Yeah, these skirmishes are going to continue to come thick and fast, faster and faster and faster. Economic distress is going to happen again and again and again and again. And so now is the time. You either choose to step into the ring or you choose to sit on the sidelines. So you either accept the pain now or you accept the pain when, as William Wallace said, on your deathbed 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, you say, what would I have done if I had have done things differently on that battleground, that you may take my life, but you won't take my freedom. And we don't fight for our freedom, ladies and gentlemen. We fight for the freedom of the next generation. Yep. We have absconded our responsibility for the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years whilst we've lived paycheck to paycheck. And unfortunately now, for those of us who are awake, we must rise up and be higher than the dollar. We must understand that our Kristallnacht, our time of Nazi control is happening right now. And if not now, then who? If not now, then when? If not who? You. You must stand up, not for yourself, but for the next generation.
Yeah. Well, freedom is not free.
No.
That's exactly right. It comes at great cost, and I am willing to bear that cost for the next generation. No matter what happens, I am willing to bear that cost. So come and join me. Come and join Stephen. Come and join Adam. You're not alone. There are many other warriors out there with face painted half blue that will stand with you, but we cannot do it alone. This cannot be a guerrilla warfare fight. We must stand together or the country will fall. The country will fall into a social credit system, and the next generation will ask you, if you make it that long, grandma, grandpa, why did you not stand up? Why did you do nothing? And you'll say, because it was just easier at the time. It's not going to be easier in 5, 10, 20 years' time. Stand now.
Oh,
and Adam and I, and probably like yourself, like we're nothing special. We're just ordinary people that were kind of forced to stand up. I felt like I had no choice at all. So this is why I'm here, and you just have to keep chipping away. You mentioned Join the Conversation. Can you just explain what that is, just for people that don't know?
So Join the Conversation is a centralised website for all minor party candidates to ensure that they actually get a fair go when it comes to elections. You go on the site, it's obviously out of date now because we haven't updated it since the federal election, but you go on the site, you enter in your electorate, and you get to see who's actually running. What's going to happen with Join the Conversation? Well, instead of getting umpteen bits of paraphernalia saying vote this, vote that, vote that, no, you're going to get one sheet of paper that says, these are all the candidates for your local area. This is the town hall meeting, and you can either come and watch it in real life, or it will be televised, streamed to your computer, and you can zoom on in and have a look at that, and you can actually hear different people's policies. You can actually get to know what the individual people think. Because why should it be that the ABC and 7, 9, 10 just give you two choices? Why do you only get two choices? You should get to choose from lots and lots of different people. So Join the Conversation. Eventually, yes, we will take finances, and that's what it was all about. And for those of you who are wondering, the money was given back. And let me tell you how much money actually came out of that website before it was shut down, the money side. $60, 60, and $20 of that was from an ABC reporter who was poking around. But once Join the Conversation actually launches again, we will take funds and we will disseminate that for all candidates, because candidates are very hampered financially. They have to try and fundraise. They have to try and get a following. They have to go out and try and lobby. They have to try and run their families whilst they're doing all that. And in the case of Adam, I don't know about you, Stephen, but in the case of Adam, he was also working full time whilst trying to run an election. It is virtually impossible. Then you get Labor and Liberal who have massive war chests and everything done for them, staff done for them, social media done for them. That is not fair. That is an unfair race, and people are hampered right before they get started. So Join the Conversation. Marketing, Join the Conversation. Town hall meetings, Join the Conversation. We will bring finances to everybody in a fair way, so everybody gets a fair go and everybody gets to have their say, and then you get to know who's actually you can vote for, and you can vote for the right person because you can actually be educated. So that's what it's all about. It's absolutely above board, always has been, always will be. We'll always be transparent with how much money we raise. We'll always do financial reports, because when nothing's being done wrong, you can dig as deep as you like. I don't care how deep do people want to dig into my life. Dig away. I've got nothing to hide.
Well, we can see, I mean, just from your passion and just from just the way that you have, you just present yourself, like I could already say you're an honest woman, you're honest. And why would you, the thing is, and, funnily, Mark Latham actually said this to me. He goes, why would you do anything in politics, anything to do where you're a public figure? You don't do anything. You should never do anything crooked. It's not. You'll get found out. It's not. You're there. You gotta be honest. You have to be upfront, and that's the way to do it. So I mean, I got more respect on that day. He got more respect from me, more than he already had. And it's the same feeling that I get from you, when you're talking about how passionate you are and your beliefs and all that kind of stuff. It actually, it's very encouraging. And I could imagine that, why would you do anything wrong? You're actually sacrificing your own anonymity to help everybody else. So you got to be good.
Well, that's the Australian way. And there are going to be many other people that stand up and choose to sacrifice their anonymity. I know I'm speaking to certain people right now, and you've been sat here glued to the screen. There is a fire that is just coals right now because life's been hard for you. You've received some really hard knocks. But what pressure does is it turns coal into diamonds. You are a diamond right now. And right now it's time for you to stand up and start to refract the light in certain areas of your sphere of influence. So come and stand with us. And the reason why the government and whatever, the reason why things happen to people like us is because we are a threat. But William Wallace was a threat. People still remember him. They made a movie about him however many years later. Who cares if it was dramatised? The point is, he still stood against the English army, and Scotland was eventually freed. Australia will eventually be freed from people who want to make you a number, make your kids a number, make you into a social credit system where you are a beast of burden and nothing more. That is the plan. If you do not want that plan for yourself, for your business, for your community, and for your children, you must stand and be counted. So pick up your pitchfork, pick up your axe, Come join us. We have a strategy. We have a linear method. We have legal people that we're connected to. We have members of parliament that we're connected to. We have lots of different people in lots of different arenas that we are connected to. So you're not just going to be flying in the breeze. We'll give you definite steps that you can move forward. And as I said before, together, once we have the numbers, then we do become the majority. And once you're the majority, then things start to really change.
Awesome.
Well, you've given me chills. Just like you're a tremendous speaker, and you have such a powerful message. That was fantastic what you just said. I definitely will be keeping in contact with you, and hopefully we can work with you in the future. But for people that want to follow you, what's the best way for them to do that? I know you've got a ton of different. I don't know how you keep up with it. I don't know where you find the time.
She's everywhere.
You've got
Well,
Getter, you've got Gab, you've got Join the Conversation,
Yeah.
you've got everything. So what's the
Yeah.
best place for people to follow what you're doing?
So, folks, I know you're not a fan, but the best place is Facebook. And yes, we are in lots of places, but unfortunately, because most of those places aren't working with algorithms, we can't actually schedule stuff. So Facebook, as much as you hate it, it's where the majority of people hang out. So Facebook is the best place to find us. I go live there practically every day at the moment, which is a sacrifice because I like to work in my pajamas and I have to do my hair and my makeup every day. It's my biggest sacrifice at the moment, but that is the best place to find us. And get onto our CRM, which is our database, our customer relationship management system. Get an email, check your inbox, your spam for Goldline, because I just don't have the time to respond to every email individually. And believe me, I get a lot of emails, a lot of emails, as do, I'm sure, Adam and Stephen. So, you know, we need to start talking more amongst the leadership, and we will endeavour to do that. We're busy, and that's the only reason why we haven't, is because we're busy. And we will do that more and more and more so that we can have a better, well-rounded approach. But come and join the side that wins, and come and be part of a great movement in history and have a story to tell your next generation. Know that you were born for such a time as this. Men, this is the time for you to stand, protect and provide for the next generation by taking to the battlefield. Come and take to the battlefield with us. It's going to be glorious. I'll personally paint your fate blue, and we'll do it together.
Awesome.
Well, I think Adam would be fantastic in blue.
Oh, I think so too. Imagine that. We need to plait your beard.
Well, I'm trying to grow it. Full Viking style, right? I could do it. I'm going to grow it then. I've made 2 promises with 2 different interviews we've done this week. So now I have to grow my beard longer to make it be able to braid it. And then and the next one is I have to get my wife to bring me something on camera. So that's the other promise I made. So that's going to be awesome. But I'm up for the challenge, and I'll make it happen. So we'll see how we go. But Rebecca, I'd like to say, you know, thank you. You know, I guess we're coming to the end of the show at the moment. So, but you know, your passion, it invigorates me. It gives me a little bit more, you know, courage and strength to keep going. I mean, you know, on this stage, we all do things that are uncomfortable that we have to do anyway. And you know, thank you for the hard work that you're putting in. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Adam, and likewise, back at you. I mean, you're married with a couple of kids. Gosh, I struggle to do my life just as a single person. I don't know how you do it, but kudos to you.
That's all right. Thank you.
He's got a good wife that does a lot for him.
Yes.
Yeah, good wife.
Absolutely.
Good wife.
Yes.
Yeah, but you know, this episode definitely needs to be shared out there. So if you have been watching this and you think this is an important message, please share it around. We're trying to get our name out there. We're trying to get this message out there. So please share it. And you know, thank you very much for watching. We're trying to get people that are really on the battlefield and on the front line on the show just to give their message. So thank you, Rebecca, for coming on. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Adam, and thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.